Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely. Always up for a good exploration.
All right, well, today we're going to be taking a look at a web page. It's all about a physics workshop, specifically for teachers in Singapore back
Hmm.
in 2012, actually, August 2012.
Oh, wow. Going back in time a bit, what kind of workshop are we talking about here?
Well, it focuses on a program called Easy Java Simulations, or EJS for short.
Okay, I've heard of EJS. It's a software, right, for building, what are they called? Simulations?
Yeah, exactly. Interactive physics simulations. The webpage basically describes this workshop where teachers were learning to use EJS to build like their own virtual physics labs.
So it's pretty cool. So what kind of
Huh.
things were they simulating?
All sorts of stuff. Electromagnetic waves, electric currents, AC generators, even a model of a bar magnet that maps onto the Earth.
Wow, that's quite a range. It's interesting to see what teachers were interested in, even back then.
Yeah, and thinking about it, this workshop kind of gives us a glimpse into the early days of something bigger, the open source physics movement, or OSP, I guess.
OSP, right, yeah. It's all about creating and sharing educational resources, like completely freely, right?
Exactly. And this workshop, from what I can tell, was really tapping into that energy.
Makes sense. So were they sharing what they were building in the workshop too?
Actually, yeah. The webpage mentions two really important resources that they were using. Compageri, it's like a giant online library of physics teaching materials, and the NTNU Java Archive,
Yeah.
which is specifically for simulations built with EJS.
Ah, so they could share their work and learn from others too. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And the workshop description even uses this word, constructionism. It's this idea where the teachers are learning alongside their students by actually building these models together.
Oh, wow. I like that. It really flips the script, doesn't it? Like the teacher isn't the only one with all the knowledge anymore. They become more of a facilitator, guiding students as they explore and build these things.
Right. I mean, can you imagine the energy in that room? Teachers from all over Singapore, everyone with their laptops, all diving into this new world of EJS,
Yeah.
sharing ideas. I bet the ideas were just like flying
Oh,
around.
for sure. I mean, the learning with your peers like that can be so powerful.
Hmm.
And speaking of EJS, I think it's worth explaining what it is exactly for anyone who might not know.
Yeah, good point. It's basically a software that lets you create these interactive simulations. I mean, you can think of it as a virtual playground for physics. Like you get to test out different scenarios and see how they play out.
And what's cool is that it's pretty accessible. Like you don't need special admin rights or anything, just Java runtime, which most computers already have.
Exactly. It sounds like they were really trying to make this technology, usable for any teacher.
Yeah, yeah. So what were some of the specific topics they were working on? You mentioned a few earlier.
Well, if we look at the web page here, it looks like teachers were requesting models for all sorts of things. Electromagnetic waves, electric currents, AC generators.
It's really a testament to how versatile EJS is, isn't it?
Yeah, and they even wanted one for a bar magnet interacting with the Earth's magnetic field, which is
That's a classic.
right. It's like they had this whole physics buffet laid out and everyone could find something to pique their interest.
Love that analogy. The physics buffet. So were they just building these simulations for themselves, or was there an element of sharing involved?
Oh yeah, sharing was a big part of it. They were actually encouraged to upload their creations to the NTNU Java archive that we were talking about before. It's a key part of the whole, open source philosophy. You build something, you share it, others can learn from it, maybe even improve upon it. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's collaborative, constantly evolving.
Like a potluck of physics knowledge.
Huh, I like that. And it looks like they were thinking about all levels of learning, too. I mean, at the bottom of the page, there's a section for popular tags. Things like dynamics, kinematics, junior college, secondary primary.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So EJS isn't just for like super advanced students. It can be adapted for, anyone.
Right, which makes the whole thing even more impressive.
And there's even a link to a simulation of a falling magnet passing through a ring. Can you imagine how engaging that would be for students?
Oh, absolutely. And instead of just reading about these concepts in a textbook, they can actually see them play out
Bruh.
and probably tinker with the variables and see what happens.
Exactly. It's such a cool way to bring those kind of invisible forces to life.
It really makes you wonder what stood out most to the teachers who attended the workshop. Like, were they immediately drawn to specific simulations? Or maybe they were more captivated by the collaborative aspects of EJS and the open source movement as a whole.
Hmm. Yeah, good question. I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely something to think about. I bet some teachers were walking out of there with like a million ideas for their
Oh,
classrooms.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, imagine being able to tackle a concept that your students always struggled with. And now you can actually build a simulation to help them visualize it.
Yeah.
That's got to be powerful.
Totally. And it's easy to get caught up in the specifics of EJS and the simulations themselves, but really this workshop it's a snapshot of something much, much bigger. This whole shift in education towards open resources, empowering teachers to become creators, and fostering collaboration across borders. It's pretty exciting.
It really is. This workshop, it was like a seed being planted back in 2012.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, how much has the open education movement, blossomed since then?
Right. Like, where's it all heading now? What new possibilities are out there? It's hard to even imagine.
Well, imagine a world where textbooks aren't static anymore. Like, they're dynamic and interactive, constantly being updated and refined by a global community of educators.
Whoa. And students aren't just passively absorbing information, they're actively creating simulations to explain these complex concepts. And they can share their creations with other students all over the world.
Exactly. It's not a top-down approach anymore. It's about building this shared pool of knowledge. Everyone contributes, everyone benefits.
It all sounds incredible, but it makes me wonder, are there any potential downsides to this open approach or challenges, I guess?
Oh, for sure. It's important to acknowledge that it's not like a perfect solution. I mean, one challenge is quality control.
Right.
With so much content being created and shared, how do we make sure it's all accurate and aligned with, learning objectives?
That's a good point. And on top of that, teachers need time and support to learn how to use these new technologies effectively. I mean, building a simulation is one thing, but seamlessly integrating it into a lesson plan, that's a whole other challenge.
Absolutely. There needs to be a balance. We
Yeah.
got to embrace the new tools, but we also need to make sure they're being used thoughtfully and effectively. But I think the potential benefits are just too big to ignore.
Totally. And you think about the cost of traditional textbooks, especially for schools in under-resourced communities, the idea that open educational resources are just like freely available to everyone,
Yeah.
it really levels the playing field.
Exactly. It's about accessibility.
Mm.
And it goes beyond just the cost savings. Think about the global reach. A student in a remote village could have access to the same high-quality learning materials as a student in a major city. Open education can really democratize knowledge,
Yeah.
you know?
It's pretty amazing when you think about it like that. And it all started with this simple web page about a workshop from over a decade ago, but it's really opened up this whole fascinating discussion about, open educational resources, the open source physics community, EJS software.
Hmm.
It's incredible.
It just shows you that innovation doesn't always happen in these, grand pronouncements or sweeping policy changes. Sometimes it starts with a group of passionate teachers eager to learn and share new ways to engage their students.
Right. Like those teachers in that computer lab in Singapore, it just goes to show how much impact a small group of people can have. And thinking back to those popular tags, the sheer range of them, from basic kinematics to more advanced topics, it really shows that EJS can be adapted to all levels of learning.
Yeah, and that tag for junior college is particularly interesting. It suggests that they were already thinking beyond high school physics, thinking about how to prepare students for higher education.
Yeah, that's a great point. And remember how the workshop included a session on uploading work in progress to the NTNU Java archive? That emphasis on sharing, it really underscores the collaborative spirit of open source.
Absolutely. They weren't just building individual simulations. They were building a community. And I think that's a really important takeaway from all of this.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? What can you take away from this deep dive?
Well, here's something to ponder. If teachers in Singapore were embracing open source physics education back in 2012, where do you think the movement is now? What new innovations have emerged in the past decade?
It's a great question. I mean, there's got to be a whole universe of exciting developments out there just waiting to be discovered. This deep dive has been a fascinating journey into the world of open source physics, and it's clear that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Makes you want to fire up EJS and start building, right?
I know, I kind of do.
Who knows? Maybe one of our listeners will be inspired to create the next big, physics learning tool.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
This whole deep dive has been opening a window into this different way of thinking about education. It's not about, just textbooks and lectures anymore. It's about empowering teachers and students to become creators and collaborators.
Exactly. And this isn't limited to just physics either. The principles of open education, they can be applied to anything. Imagine like every student, no matter where they are or their background, having access to this huge library of high-quality interactive learning resources.
Wow, yeah. It's a pretty amazing vision. Really makes you think about what the future holds for open education.
Yeah. And here's something else to consider. We've been focusing on a snapshot from way back in 2012. But technology, well, it never stands still, right? So just imagine the possibilities of things like virtual reality, augmented reality, and even artificial intelligence. All of that being integrated into open educational resources.
Whoa. Yeah, that's almost too much to even comprehend. I mean, we could have students conducting like virtual experiments in ancient Rome,
Yeah.
or exploring the human body from the inside out, or even designing their own like sustainable cities.
The possibilities really are endless. And the
Mm.
best part is we get to shape this future of learning, you know?
It's pretty inspiring when you think about it.
Yeah, it really is.
So if this deep dive has piqued your interest even a little bit, go out there and explore the world of open source education.
There's a ton of information and resources out there just waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely. And hey, maybe you'll even create the next groundbreaking, educational tool. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.